So this season, obviously, we've begun to see an entire new level of your relationship with Sarper. And right off the bat, I would just love to know what are some of your favorite things about him?
I love Sarper's sense of humor. He's so funny. I mean, it's not just the language faux pas that he makes constantly, but also just his sense of humor is so good. I'm always laughing around him. He's so good looking, but his personality is what really gets me. And I think he's super charming also.
Yeah, very much so. You guys have some really
Yeah.
sweet moments, and it definitely comes through in the episodes. Yeah, that's amazing. In the time that you've been living abroad, I was also curious about are there any cultural differences that you've noticed that, have created challenges in your relationship thus far?
I think that the biggest one is just the language barrier. Luckily, Sarper speaks really great English. His English has improved a lot over the past year and a half that we've been dating,
Mhm.
but it's been really difficult with his family because they don't speak English. And when we're in family settings, which is often,
Uh-huh.
um, there's a lot of talk going on and I am not a part of it. So that is really difficult. I have to just kind of go off of facial expressions, the vibe in the room. Sometimes it gets heavy because they're talking about certain things that I am not privy to. And I'm just like, I feel like I'm in the dark, It's
Yeah.
just kind of like, I almost feel like an outsider, a fly on the wall. Like, I'm not really there, but I am. It's weird. It's a really unusual feeling. It's not one that I've ever experienced before. Um, and I've really struggled to learn the language. It's so difficult. I only know English. And I have a terrible memory. So it's really hard to remember Turkish words. Sarper will teach me something and I feel like I forget it. And they have, like, some words that have no English translation, which is really interesting. Like, whenever you pass somebody that's working, whether it's like a waiter or house cleaner or someone, you have a special thing you say to them, and we don't
Mm.
have that in English.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of little things like that, and then they have no pronouns, so they don't have no he or she. It's just very unusual.
Mhm. Yeah, it's interesting you bring up, being around his family and not and having a bit of a language barrier. In the most recent episode that I saw, my heart really went out to you. There was a moment where you're with Sarper and his extended family talking about the K-1 visa. And something that was also very moving to me was then you started to speak about, how your relationship with Sarper has caused a strain on your family relationships as well. So if you're comfortable speaking to it, I was also wondering how has it been dealing with, that distance between you spoke to your sisters and your mother? Because I imagine that's incredibly hard emotionally.
It's difficult mainly, I think, because of my history with dating. I've chosen a lot of people that were questionable characters. My family could see through things a lot faster than I could, being on the inside of the relationship. I think sometimes on the outside, you have a better perspective of what's going on. And once I got out of those relationships, I had a more clear vision of, what was happening all along.
Mhm.
But I was really blind to it when I was like in it. So they don't really trust my judgment when it comes to choosing a partner, which is unfortunate. But I think that because of all of the bad choices that I've made in relationships, it's made me more hyper aware
Yeah.
to certain traits or red flags that I should be looking for. So I think that I'm better at picking a partner these days.
Yeah.
But they have yet to like be convinced of that. So it's just hard. And especially given Sarper's background, I think that, that's a huge challenge. They are looking at someone that's never had a serious relationship and he's in his 40s.
Mm.
And, he has this history of being kind of a, like a bad boy,
Sure.
playboy type. So yeah, that's challenging. I just wish that they would give him a chance and get to know him better because I think if they did, they would love him like I do,
Mhm.
and they would see the side of him that not everyone does get to see. So I'm hoping that that chance is given in the future, but as of right now, it's challenging to convince them that this is a good choice for me.
Yeah, I understand. That seems really, really tough, but I feel like that's what life is all about is kind of learning
Yeah.
from experiences and yeah, growing from them. It was very heartwarming to see though that despite the language barrier, it seems like Sarper's family is very warm and welcoming towards
They
you. It's his
are,
sister
and that's
especially.
another hard thing is that they are so warm and welcome. I mean, it's not a hard thing that they are, it's wonderful,
Mhm.
but it's difficult to, pair that with the contrast of, like, how my family is towards Sarper because
Yeah.
it makes them look even worse, I guess, because his family is so wonderful, so accepting, so warm and loving. I mean, they call me their daughter.
Mm.
They message me every day. His dad has my locations on his phone, so he always knows where I am
Oh.
because he's like this like very concerned, dad figure. And I love that. But my family is just so different. Our dynamic is so different. We're not as close. And it takes them time to warm up to somebody, which his family, it didn't take them any time at all to accept
Yeah.
me. So that's a huge difference.
Yeah. That's really lovely that they've kind of taken you in kind of as a daughter of their
Yeah.
own. Yeah, that's amazing to hear. In this most recent episode, obviously it includes the conversation where you and Sarper share with them that you've applied for the K-1 visa, which would require Sarper to spend some time living in the US. Obviously, that there was a bit of an emotional reaction to that. Would you say that his family reacted in the way that you were expecting?
I wasn't sure how they were going to react, but the family is so close knit
Mhm.
that it is a huge jarring occurrence to take place for Sarper to leave the nest because he is so bonded with all of them. There's family dinners multiple times a week. He's an only child. He's their everything. Their world revolves around him. His cousin Sassoon is like a sister to him. He grew up with her. She's also an only child, so they were like, playmates growing up. So everyone is just so close that for someone to be leaving and especially to be going so far away, it's really hard for them to wrap their heads around.
I did find it very, very sweet when obviously Sarper was very empathetic towards his mom, being upset about the idea of him being away. But, kind of where he wound up was saying, being with Shekinah is the most important thing to me. And that was just, as a viewer,
Aw.
really, really nice to hear. I want to switch gears a little bit talking about something else that came up in the episode, which is how you mentioned that you and Sarper share the same birthday, which is an
Yeah.
incredible coincidence. And I love that. So I wanted to know, in general, do you believe in fate? And are there some things in life that you believe were destined to happen?
I do believe in fate, and I think that Sarper and I sharing the same birthday is not a coincidence. I think that it was written in the stars
Mm.
that we would be together someday. And I honestly think that, having been born on the same day, we are 2 years apart, but being born on the same day at around the same time, we're born about an hour apart. Um, it really we can see the similarities in each other so well. Like we're almost like the same person in separate bodies because we love doing the same thing. We have the same we want to do the same things at the same time, which makes life so much easier. We're not compromising on like what we feel like doing from 1 hour to the next because we're always on the same frequency, which makes it really nice. I was never really like a huge believer in astrology because I just didn't know if it was a real thing or not,
Mhm.
but I'm more of a believer now because of Sarper, because of our birthdays, it's
Oh.
just so interesting and so many things do align, I think, because of that.
I feel like it's such a blessing to have a partner who you're just kind of always on the same wavelength with. It just makes things
It is.
so
It's
nice
so
and
nice.
smooth. Yeah, yeah, that's fantastic. Just generally, I was wondering, what is some relationship advice that you can offer to people in their own relationships, be them either cross cultural or be them long distance?
I think just being in close touch and involving each other in your daily lives, even if it's like little things that you're doing, just letting your partner know, from, one part of your day to the next, what your plans are, what you're doing. It makes you feel like part of each other's lives, even if you are far apart. That was really important for Sarper and I over the past year and a half, just to make each other part of our days because, that distance is really hard. It's really hard. But the good part about it is that you get to know each other on a deeper level because you don't have that intimacy factor that can really take up a lot of space. You just have communication verbally. So you do get to talk about a lot of things, which helps you know somebody on a deep level. So
Mhm.
that's a good side of long distance. Um, but yeah, I think working, one thing that Sarpa really encouraged was working through difficult, serious issues in person. So we did save a lot of big topics for when we were together. So we
Mhm.
didn't try to work out some of the deeper things when we were apart. So, and at first that was hard for me. I was like, I want to talk about this now. I
Right.
want to like know how you feel about this now. And he was like, no, this is a serious topic and we need to wait till we're in person. And in the long run, I think that was better. Because things can get misconstrued. And when you can't see the person's face
Mhm.
and feel their energy and you're talking about hard topics, there can be misunderstanding that happens. So that was helpful for us to just save the really big topics for when we were together.
Yeah, I totally get that. It's so easy for things to get misconstrued over text, and it's just
Yes.
yeah, something about being in the same physical space just totally can change the dynamic. While you're together, obviously, we see a lot of conversations that are happening behind closed doors, and yet not quite because obviously there's filming going on for the show. So, in this most recent episode, we get a rare glimpse of one of the producers actually on camera. Matt steps in to ask you what's happened in a conversation between you and Sarper. So, I was wondering, what is it like having that support from behind the camera while filming is taking place?
You know what? It's like having a therapist with you all the time, kind of,
Mm.
because they advocate for you at times when the other person, when you're just not getting through to the other person. Sometimes the producer will say, you know, you're really hurting Shekinah. You need to look at what she's trying to say to you. She said it 3 times now. You know, please try to give a response to what she's actually saying and get out of, you know, this loop that you're in of what you want to get across. So it is nice to have somebody advocating for you, pointing out certain things, holding you accountable, um, and forcing you to have those deep conversations at times that you want to avoid, especially early on in in the relationship. Sometimes you'll be like, I really want to talk about this, but I think it's too early in the relationship. No, the producer's like, we're talking about this now.
Yeah,
So,
but it is.
I felt like it sped up the getting to know you process with Sarper and I because we did have to talk about a lot of um, delicate things early on. And in the specific situation that you were talking about, which is this week's episode, when Sarper and I got into that serious fight, being able to call on the producer and be like, I'm in a situation right now. Um, and we did make a commitment to open our lives up to the camera, to the world.
Mhm.
And so letting the producer know that this is probably something that you should come and capture. Um, you feel so vulnerable doing
Yeah.
that, but at the same time, it's rewarding because it's important for people to see different parts of the relationship to get a full understanding of the relationship as a whole. So, um, yeah, that was a hard call to make, but I was glad that I made it because it was a it was a big fight. I think it was like one of our biggest fights, actually.
Mhm. Yeah, that's so interesting to hear you talk about it. I've never thought about it as being it's something that can sort of prompt communication between two
Yeah.
people. Yeah. I guess on the flip side, is there anything that didn't make it into the show this season that you wish could have been included?
Well, I think we're only like 5 episodes in, and I see the episodes at the same time as you, so
Oh.
I really don't know what's gonna be shared, like, you've seen this coming week's episode, I
Mhm.
haven't, so I'm trying to guess what it is that you're talking about. I mean, I have a good idea of what you're talking about, but, we never quite know what's gonna make the cut. There's a lot of filming that takes place and a very little amount that gets shown.
Okay.
So it's hard to say so far this season what's, you know, what's missing
Yeah.
because I don't
Well,
really know yet myself.
okay, yeah.
But yeah, the important stuff is what gets shown on camera. You know, the things that really make sense with our story as a whole. And one thing that I do wish that they showed more of is just our great chemistry and our lighter moments. There was a lighter moment that was shown recently when Sarper made a joke and we both just broke down laughing, and I loved that because a lot of drama gets shown, so it's nice
Sure.
to show, like, a happy moment, with us, which we do have a lot of, by the way.
Yeah. No,
They
I
just
could,
don't
yeah.
all make the cut.
Yeah, I know, I know. Even if they're
Yeah.
few and far between, I really do feel like, yeah, the chemistry comes through and just,
Yes.
yeah, yeah, how much fun you guys have together is always,
Yeah.
yeah, a nice bright spot to see.
Thanks.
Yeah, yeah. I did have a question because I saw him make a guest appearance in the background, walking across your bed. I was wondering how,
Oh, no, that was my dog.
I know I was gonna ask how has Adonis been adapting to life
Oh,
abroad?
I thought you said you saw Sarper. I
No,
was like,
no, no,
"Wait,
sorry, I
what?"
was teeing up, Adonis, who I'm also a fan of. Yeah, how has Adonis
Thanks.
been adapting to life abroad?
Adonis actually was great in Turkey. He gained a little weight.
Oh, that's a
Turkey dog food was a little more fatty, but he's fine. And, he's actually back in the US now because we had to bring him back. If we didn't, he was gonna have to stay in Turkey permanently.
I see.
And with the pending visa, if Sarper were to get approved to come to the US and Adonis couldn't come, that would be devastating. So we had to bring him back within a certain time period. So he stayed in Turkey for about 4 months.
Okay, great. Yeah, yeah. Well, good
Yeah,
to know. Yeah, I know it's so crazy trying to make sure everyone in the family stays together, but I'm happy to hear,
I know.
enjoyed his time there, but is now back home. That's amazing.
He's the cutie. I know.
Oh, well, I'm so excited to see everything else that happens the rest of the season. I know we
Thanks.
have a long way to go, but I'm so invested in your story. Is there anything else that you um, know that fans can expect throughout the season, or anything else that you care to share?
Well, some of my favorite moments with Cyber are coming up this season, actually. So I'm excited to relive those again when I watch those episodes, and I'm excited for all of the viewers to see those moments too. I can't say what they are, but they're like really big, exciting,
Oh,
wonderful moments.
oh,
And
well,
I just like love those memories, and it's so nice that they were captured so that we can watch them over and over again.
yeah. It's like having your own little scrapbook of moments together.
Yeah,
That's really cool. Great,
totally.
great. I can't even begin to guess what the big moments coming up are, so I'm really excited to tune in.
They're really good.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for taking the time. That's pretty much everything I had for you.
Thank
I so
you.
appreciate it. Cannot wait to see more. So yeah.
Thanks so
Thank you so
much.
much. Have a great rest of your day.